Hi guys, welcome back to the Pravega Racecast. And today we have a very special person on the podcast. He's special not only because he was the captain of Pravega Racing from the 16-17 season, but he chose to do something very different after his graduation. And today we're going to speak more about that. Welcome, Tribhuvan.
Namaskaram others, and namaskaram to everyone for having me. It's a really great pleasure to be here and discuss my life experience. I hope this helps or maybe gives you an insight of how things were back then and how things are now with me. And I hope this can help you, team, and anyone who's watching. So thank you for having me. So,
I'd like to start off by asking you, what were the skills that you learned at Pravega Racing that helped you throughout your life? Not only the technical, but I'd like to focus on the non-technical aspects as well.
all right. So I would sort of answer your question by delving into a little story on how I got into the team, and from that I can maybe answer on what skills that helped me to that I learned during the time in my team. So for me, when I got into engineering, I did not have particular inclination towards automotive engineering or Formula One or race cars. For me, I was just a very curious student. I always loved asking questions, getting to know things and how they are. So for me, engineering was a broad choice that I thought would help me, answering those questions and maybe help me figure out those questions in life. So I got into engineering, and the first task or the first challenge into my mind was to doing well academically, proving myself, my parents, okay, that I can do well. So the first semester was focused towards that. And once I did that, I studied really hard, I did well, and then I achieved that. And then I was like, okay, what's next? Okay, you did that. And now are you going to do that 4 years continuously in college? And I thought maybe that's not it. So then I started looking on how and what things I can do in college to enhance my experience during those 4 years. So I knew there were a lot of activities you can do in college, as VIT is a very diverse place and you have a lot of things that you can do. So naturally, I heard about Pravega Racing being one of the best team and much hype about it.
Okay, so at this point of time, were you like into race cars at all, or was it like
no inclination at all, like zero.
okay?
I've never done a race in my life. Of course, knew a little bit about cars, had a little bit of knowledge about automotive engineering, but nothing related to race cars. So anyhow, my friend told me about this interview that's happening tomorrow, and I'm like, okay, why not? Let's delve into that. And then I went through the process and I got selected. Even though I did not have many technical skills at that point, but my general curiosity, I think, helped me to get into the team and like show what kind of attitude I have towards thinking about problems and how to solve that. And then so all this story that I'm telling you stems from the fact that it does not matter what you know. It matters how you're tackling a problem or how you're solving the problem. That's what essentially to me is engineering. How you're thinking to solve a problem. So the one key skill that the important skill that I would say that I learned during engineering is not what you think, what you learn. It's how you learn.
Okay, that's very interesting insight.
Yeah. So compared to a traditional college experience and compared to how I experienced during my time in the team is I got to learn a lot of things in classroom, but equally so or even more so, I got to apply them during my time in the team. So
okay, so I'd like to put you on the spot and ask you about. I want you to give me an example about because this is a thing that people usually say. They say, "I learned this in the classroom, and then in Pravega Racing, I was able to apply it." Can you give me an example for that?
So, for example, let's say there's a course in mechanical engineering that's fundamental of manufacturing processes. And when you're building a race car, you need to make parts, right? And you need to make it very cost effectively. You need to know how to make it. You can do all sorts of fancy processes and end up spending huge amount of money and achieving the same thing which could have been done with very less. So as simple as operating a lathe machine and making those parts by yourself can cost you a lot of money, can save you a lot of money. So something as simple as just operating a lathe machine, which you learn in classrooms, and of course you learn a bit in the practical, but actually learning it and actually understanding what skills goes into it, and appreciating like people who do that kind of work.
Okay.
I think that's something which you get to learn being in the team and being in the workshop and actually doing it by yourself. And there are many things like that, like when you're designing the car, vehicle dynamics, just doing the testing of the car and learning what materials, how they perform. So you learn all that, but you never get to apply that anywhere in your life and probably wherever you work. And one key interesting point that I would like to highlight here is a lot of my faculties, a lot of the courses that I took, the faculties were aware that we are part of the team. And some faculties were very nice enough to invite us to bring that knowledge that we've learned in the team and showcase that during the class, because even if teachers are talking about materials, they've never seen them, they've never shown them the class. So something as simple as carbon fiber, it's a very noble thing to have, but we have that in the team, and like students never see them. So the faculty used to request us to bring those materials into the classroom and like exhibit the class, and that was something really interesting.
Okay. Now, with the technical aspects and the technical advantages you get after joining a team like this are obviously innumerable. You will learn something in the class, and then in the lab you can apply it to a certain extent, but not really. But in the team, you're responsible for everything, and you actually apply it. But interestingly enough, after leaving the team, no one says, "Oh, I'm glad I got to work with carbon fiber." That's not really a thing. What people say is, "It helped me grow as a human being." So maybe can you reflect on this aspect of things?
Exactly. So the key point that I mentioned for me is not what you learn in engineering, it's how you learn in engineering. So it's the mindset that you get to learn in engineering and how to look at problems and how to go about them. Not exactly what the problem is, but how you will solve it, And you can take that approach to anything in life, interacting with someone, having a situation that is not technical, but like very human in nature, but you've gone through a process where you know how to think and not focusing on too much what to think, So I feel more so than I would say 80% of what you learn in the team would is more based on like how you function as a human rather than what you learn technically. If I look like hindsight, I probably 10-15% of what I learn technically, I use it in my day-to-day life, and that too because I'm involved in automotive industry still. But if someone is involved in some other industry, still there's a lot of things that can be utilized as well.
Okay. And personally, I'd completely agree with that. And I know you've faced this as well. And for me personally, one of the areas where the problem solving comes into place is when it comes to the shipping of the car. And I think this is very relatable for you as well. These are situations where you think everything will go perfectly, and it never goes perfectly. We all know that. So yeah,
Yeah.
and how we solve that problem really matters. And I think yeah, that's a really good insight. Uh, so when I introduced you, I told everyone that you are a different leader. Like you are different in certain ways than other people. I mean, we all are different, but I'd like to hear what you think yourself as a leader and what kind of a leader you want people to think of you as.
So I think obviously how I was in the team and how I am now, it's been a journey and I've matured through the years. And even if you think about how you are as a leader, first of all, you don't consider, a leader would never consider himself, at least me, I would never consider myself as a leader. It's something that comes very naturally. Um, and a really key aspect of a leader is he does not think about himself. if a leader starts to think about himself, then he would start to conflate his ego and like how he's superior to other and all those things. But like in essence, if you're thinking about the people who are involved with you, and if you're taking care of them, if you're solving their problems, and you're thinking of them as a possibility and not as a resource with the team, then obviously they would respond to you and they would come to you with problems. And I think that that's how naturally you become a leader. So, but I have to learn. I learned that through the experience that I went through in the team. Initially it was very emotional, very passionate. Like team is first, and we have to build the car, and car is everything, and everything. But slowly, when we went through the process, this is my personal realization that you need to think about the human side first, and if you have that sorted, then obviously you have the car sorted. I learned that through the process when I went through my years in the team. Initially, it was the car. It has to be perfect. That is everything. We have to put everything into that. But then slowly, when you interact with people, when you realize what they are in for, what they are expecting, what their possibility is, then you start to shift your focus to people. And once you shift your focus to people and you try to solve their problems and you help them nurture, then ultimately the team does well and the car is something that you want.
Okay. Well, I mean, I can understand perfectly well why you'd say that, and I think we'll discuss this in the discussion as well. But I want to touch upon what kind of a leader you were while you were at the team. So I'll give you an example. Currently in the team, I know people whose strengths are talking to people and understanding people. I know people who are good at getting the job done. They're really pragmatic. It's like, this is the deadline, it's going to be done by then. So there are certain strengths that are good for everyone and the team. What was that particular strength for you? Like what quality do you think allowed you to help the team succeed? If you had to be selfish for one moment.
I think it was a lot of passion. I've been a very emotional, very passionate person since the beginning when I got into the team. So I think uh, I was able to communicate that really well. Like whenever there was a problem and whenever there was a situation where it needed the whole team to come together, I would just get everyone together and I would stand in front of them and I would really communicate what emotions I have at that point. I think that really helped them to connect to me and then like push forward towards the direction that we want to go. So I think not realizing that I'm like inciting emotions and passion into them, but like really expressing what I am feeling and why I am so passionate about it. And if they think that's something relatable, then they would also join me and connect with me. So for me, communicating what I'm feeling was very important. And I felt that that was important at every level. Like, so during my time as the team captain, like I had people with me, the seniors, like my batchmates, and I feel I was just one link in the whole chain, and they were the really ones who were technically capable and they were taking care of a lot of things. I was just able to get like keep them together, communicate what we're feeling, what we're doing as a team, have a vision where we want to go, and then communicate that and bring everyone on the same page, and then from there they would take it to the next level. So I feel like translating or like expressing your emotions, your vision in a way that people can connect and move together with you. That's what I feel I've been able to do as a team leader. And I think sometimes very emotionally and very passionately, which I would, if I look in hindsight, I would tone it down, but like that's how it was.
Okay. So essentially you were able to use the passion you had in a very productive way so that the team
Yeah.
succeeds. Now, I'd like to move on to a very interesting segment, possibly the most interesting segment of the podcast. And this is essentially why I chose him to be on the podcast. If you all don't know, after post graduations, engineers do one of two things: they go for higher studies or they sit for placements. Now, Tribhuvan did not do either, and he did something very unique. So instead of me explaining what he did, I'd like him to explain what exactly led him to do that and what exactly he did. So the stage is yours.
All right. So I feel while I was transitioning or towards the end of my time in the team, uh, again that question popped up: what's next? What do I want to do next in my life? And I feel really privileged or grateful to have that comfort in life, to have that choice. A lot of people don't have that choice to think what they want to do in life. For a lot of people, it's a necessity to do a certain or go to a certain path, financially and socially. But I'm grateful enough that I had a choice. My family is well enough, and they allowed me to um, think and to really choose a path which felt uh, to me was the right thing to do. So even towards the end of it, I was thinking whether to go for a job or to find an experience, or obviously a lot of people think about doing masters for going higher education. But those are things that are really, a lot of people get into it because a lot of people are talking about it, and they do, the the sheep mentality is kind of like that. And it's nothing wrong about it. It's just, I feel it's important to question, if you have the privilege, what is really needed in the world and what you want to do. So at that point of time, I thought a job would not satisfy or not be justified or uh, on what I want to do in life. And so I started exploring. I did some internships, but I was lucky enough to have an opportunity to go to Japan for a fellowship. The fellowship was called Awaji Youth Federation, and the concept was they gathered 30 young people from 20 different countries, and they put them on a very remote island in Japan. And the basic aim or the purpose of the fellowship was to think about global problems and find solutions towards those global problems. So I thought, yeah, why not? Like, let's experiment in what that can translate into what I want to do in life. So I went through that process and through that fellowship, and I would say that was one of the most amazing year of my life after Pravega. I met really, really amazing people, some really interesting people, really passionate people who want to bring about a change in the world and want to solve global problems that we're suffering right now. So being there, being in Japan, I got involved with people who were focusing on solving environmental problems, climate change problems, and how the current lifestyle that we have is not it's destroying nature, and how it's not sustainable. So we came up with a concept called regenerative lifestyle. So in that, it's not sustaining, because sustainable is not sustainable anymore, as we all know. So we came up with concept where your lifestyle is such that you give back to nature, because that's what is needed right now to heal the environment and the nature that we're in. So there were different projects in that overall theme, and my focus was basically on how new agriculture practices and technologies can help farmers to transition into a more regenerative way of living. So in Japan, I focused on new concepts of farming, such as hydroponics and aquaponics. So my path kind of started to shift towards key problems or areas that we are facing right now in the world. So towards the end of internship, again this question popped up: so what now? What to do next? And so I was grateful enough to have options to be there in Japan, continue and work on the same project, or come back and be with my family and like look at things around here. And then again, I made the choice that I would be better off coming back here, because there are a lot of more opportunities to think about problems in our country and what we can do here. So I made the choice to, after that year, come back here and then think about problems and how we can, what I learned in Japan, how I can apply here. So that's how I came back, and that's how my transition towards agriculture uh, shifted during that year.
Okay. Now, the agriculture bit was something that came about later. So it wasn't like you were passionate about it and you wanted to do it and you happened to stumble upon it. Now you've continued to do that. That means there's probably something you connect with as well. And also, the Japanese culture is not a culture that can be ignored, and it has obviously played a huge. It has influenced you hugely on how you live, how you think, and how you look at life in general. So, can we touch on how your perspective of life shifted, and what are the practices that you maybe inculcated in your life after you came back from Japan, and why you actually
Sure,
found the connect with agriculture?
sure. So a key aspect of Japanese culture is living with harmony with the nature. So all the things or all the activities that you do are in connect, or should be in connect with the nature. And if you really focus and if you really look back, all of this starts from India. Because the culture, the Japanese culture or the Buddhism that transitions started from the Silk Route that starts in India and then transitions from China and Korea and then to Japan. So I would say the roots starts from India, but essentially I got the opportunity to be on that path or to learn about those things, specifically Zen culture and how to be one with the surroundings where you are. Started in Japan, and it started with a tradition that we call as tea ceremony. Um, so that really stems from the Zen culture, and it is basically about being so involved being so involved in a process that you forget about your surroundings and you really connect the person that you're preparing the tea for. So I got to be part of that culture and to learn and to learn about those values. And I think that really put me on a path of really connecting with nature and in general life, how to look at life in a different perspective, how to look at things as one. So I think that's how it shifted my transition into really connecting with whatever there is in front of me, whether it's a person, whether it's an object, whether it's a plant or a tree, giving all your energy or focus towards that person. I think that's how the Japanese culture really helped me to understand my core feelings or values towards things.
Okay. I think that certainly reflects in your demeanor as well. Because when I was initially a junior in the team, going through my technical stuff, I'd heard about you. And what I'd heard was you're a very pragmatic, aggressive leader who got the job done. And I had a completely different image of how you'd speak. And then after speaking to
Uh-huh.
you, the things you speak about, being one with nature, being connected to what you're doing in front of you, I think, and the calmness, the zenness, you can say, and I think that like seeps through the way you put yourself together. um
I mean, as I told you, that's been a journey, and whatever you've heard probably is correct to a lot of extent. And I personally, if I look back, I feel I was that kind of person who was very pragmatic, very aggressive, very emotional, very passionate towards things. And I would say that's a fair comment. But as you go through life, you learn and you adapt. And I think it's been a wonderful journey going through all those experience and learning.
okay, now here's something interesting that I want to talk about. Now, life in Pravega and life in Japan are quite different. Fast paced, pragmatic, work. Here you're doing something completely different. uh Are there any skills that you think carried over from Pravega racing to Japan, which you think were actually very useful for you?
Yeah, I think in general, like since the beginning, I'm I'm telling you a point that it's how I learned how to think really changed me as a person and translated in whatever I've done in life. So interestingly, I would tell you something. Inside my room, I had a very blank wall, and the first thing I put up there was few pictures of my time in the team, and I put a Japanese character saying "universe," and it meant like this was my universe, and that's how I started. So even being in Japan, like I always used to remember and reflect my time in the team. And I would say like me being in Japan was essentially because of my experience in the team and how I explained that to the people who really thought that I'm a deserving person for that fellowship. So I never forget that were the roots from where I came from. I always kept that in mind. One important thing that really helped me from what I learned and in Japan would be how to look at people with different mindsets and different opinions and still be okay with them, to live with them and understand them and work with them towards a solution, and not like always be in opposition with each other. So as being in the team, you will have always people who are of different perspective, a different opinion, different mindset, and you have to learn really to live with them and even not if not agree to them, but still work together towards the better solution. I think that was a really important skill that I learned um, in the team that really helped me, because uh, like 30 people from 20 different countries, you would find even more uh, different characteristics, different cultures, different behaviors. So even more so, you would need like that skill to adjust with them.
Okay. So I think we're coming to the end of the podcast. And what people usually do is they ask about the good memories you had in the team. What were your best memories, memorable memories? But I want to do something different. I would like to first start off with your bad memories for the team. Things that you think back and kick yourself for, and things that you think back and maybe think that should not have happened. So I would like to know what were your worst memories in the team.
All right. So before that, I would like to ask you a few questions if that's okay with you.
Okay.
So how things in terms of the cleanliness or the working space in the workshop? How are things now in the workshop?
Okay. So what happens every year is when summer comes around, we think the workshop is very messy. Let's give it a
Uh-huh.
complete overhaul. And what ends up happening is throughout the summer, workshop is extremely clean. 10 days to the event, it's back to square one, absolutely messy. So what we've actually done is last year during summers, we implemented a thing where we had to put our garbage in certain bins, and we absolutely followed that. And we had, so I know you were in the composites department, and as a coincidence, one of the leading departments responsible for causing havoc in the workshop in terms of causing a mess is the composites department. So what we've done is we
I
have a
know.
separate table for them. So they have their own working space where their epoxy is not all over the floor. And we have new mats, of course, and everything is compartmentalized. And there's one more thing that we learned when we went to FSG. One of the main problems that we faced was all our parts were inside boxes, and the boxes had smaller boxes inside them, so it was very difficult to access. What other teams had was they had a portable rack system that could be assembled and disassembled very quickly. So what we're actually doing now is seeking sponsorships for those portable rack systems, so we can have them at the workshop as well. Then we can take them to the event. So I'd say it's pretty clean. I'd say you would not be disappointed if you come to the workshop.
All right, all right. And I would explain you why I asked you that question is because I would want to share a story that you can say it's a bad memory or also a good memory, but both maybe. And I think so. The whole phase of getting the workshop clean and the mats and the boxes and everything, I was very particular about those things during my time in the team. And it got to an extent where if I would enter the workshop and there were juniors around, they would just pick up a broom and like start mopping the floor. It got so extreme, and I'm not so proud about it, but like that's I realized to inculcate this culture, it has to be really strict and really strong towards the start of it, so it can transition into the team later on. So the mats and the boxes that you see in the workshop really, I think, started from our time in the team, and I think a lot of people would still remember me for being so hard on them. So because of this culture, a lot of people felt a lot of pressure in the team, like cleaning all the time, getting things, wiping them and mopping the floor whenever they leave the workshop, and not coming in slippers in the workshop. I was very particular about those things. So few juniors, they were really feeling pressure about these things. And it kept building up, and I did not realize. And then towards the later part of the year, um, people start to express it, and then suddenly I'm in a meeting where all the juniors are really, expressing their dislike of how this activity is happening and how they're feeling pressured. And it became really emotional because I never expected that they would feel like that. But I understand why they would feel and how my um, way of made them feel that. But then it turned really emotional, and I really cried so much in front of my juniors that day, being on the stage of the classroom. I sat there and I cried for 10-15 minutes, really explaining what I meant from what I did. And that whole process, starting from very, very confrontational, started to shift towards very emotional, and then people getting really emotional on why they're in the team, and then it turned into people hugging each other and really. So I think that night almost 90% of the team cried and really expressed what they feel about the team, and then I think that really made us stronger as a team. So started from a bad memory, started to shift towards good memory, and I'm still in touch of a lot of juniors, and then they still joke about how I was during that time and being like a Hitler towards cleaning things and wiping things, but they really understood how it was important to inculcate that culture. So that was just a insight. How is it now? I'm about
I
you
mean,
guys.
you know what the funny thing is? For you, the juniors are my super seniors, and thinking of some of them crying, it's quite literally impossible for me. So there's very funny thing imagining all of them crying. But yeah, this what you said was very relatable to me as well, because what happened once was before I became the captain with the others. There was a stage where one of the things where conflicts arise in our team is during the rule book preparation, and if someone is seen slacking, we took that very seriously. And it got to a point where some really good people were like, do I want to stay in a team like this where they're like this strict about the rule book?
Mm,
Then later what we realized
I
is
can relate.
what we realized is it was not wrong for us to be strict about the rule book because we had a reason for doing that. It's just that we didn't communicate that reason well enough. What we then did was we tried to express
Exactly.
why we're that strict and explain to them what it means to not qualify for the events. So it worked out later after that. So yeah, I think the
Exactly.
communication that you told about and translating the passion has definitely improved in the team over the past few years.
I'm really glad you guys have that in mind. So because if I look back and if I think some of the bad memories, not a lot of them, but like particularly this one, where you can see your juniors really feeling the pain and getting a lot of pressure, and that really hits you because you're working so hard and you really care about people. You spend so much time with them, and if they feel that way and you did not realize, then I really questioned myself for a long time, and then I learned how things could have been different. But it was a good memory for all of us.
Okay. Now let's move to the good thing then. I'd like to hear you. I'd like to hear what was your best memory in the team, and you can't repeat what you just said.
um, there are certainly like tons of them. I think a big part of my life, if I think like experience wise, has been in the team. But one story that I can share with you that really impacted me as a person was, so my first year in the team, uh, I was really involved with the seniors. I was the first person in the workshop, and I was the last one to leave with the seniors. Like there were third years, second years, and first years. So even like the second years were gone, or some of the third years were gone. There were a few people left, and I was the one left with the third years. I was really working on the car, getting my hands dirty. So I really connected with my seniors. Really grateful for them. Some amazing seniors. Um, so during the launch of the 2015 car, um, the car was not ready. I think the least ready any car could be before a launch in Pravega history. That was we were drilling holes in the body, putting tabs on the car to put the body together. So many things were happening 5-6 hours before the launch. Still working it out. And towards the end, where there was 1 hour or 30 minutes left before the launch, car should have been at the place near towards the tank. I'm forgetting the name of that place.
SMB.
SMB, yeah. So 30 minutes before the launch, when the car should have been there, we're still in the workshop working on it. All the seniors are there, and I'm the only junior that is still there. And after a point, when it was like 5-10 minutes, everyone left to clean up, be in the launch, because it's a special thing, for us to celebrate the launch. But me and a couple of other seniors, we're still working on the car, trying to get it to that place. And we got delayed by like 30 minutes, but somehow, like with so much effort, we pushed the car, did all of it, and got the car there. And when the launch was happening, I and like a couple of other seniors standing in a really dirty t-shirt, all my face covered with grease and hands, in a shot where everyone is like in team t-shirt and very well dressed and enjoying the launch. I'm standing there looking like shit with few of the seniors, and really seeing like how much effort that went into get that car there. And that really, I cried so much during that night, like the whole night, like not realizing why I'm so emotional about it, but like putting so much effort into something and seeing it come to fruition, and seeing people who are enjoying it, and feeling like grateful that because of my effort, like people are enjoying, and I'm so happy that they're enjoying. So, and I'm not able to enjoy, and that I learned a really key lesson there, that leaders always, they're the first one to lead, and they're the last one to come, they're the last one to eat when the whole team comes first. So I think that's a very pivotal moment in my life. Standing there, dirty clothes, shorts, when everyone's in formals and enjoying the launch, and really looking at the car and being very emotional that I helped that make it happen. That was a very good memory that comes to my mind.
You know what the best part is? The best part is that you won Formula Bharat. You were the captain when we won Formula Bharat. In spite of that, this is the memory that came to mind. I mean, that I guess that just goes on to show that it doesn't matter what the achievements seems from the outside. Like it is really the small things that make a difference, like this, right?
I
Yeah,
think
and
if I think about the technical things, the awards and all, I mean, the first thing that pops up is the people, like all my batchmates, like we're still in touch, we do things together, we visit each other, hang out with each other, juniors, we talk with each other, help out each other, and like us connecting again. It's a very deep bond, and a very something that we've experienced uh, that has connected us so much, and it feels really emotional to connect back with those people and think about those things. So even though if you meet someone who you've been in the team, you can sit all day and talk about memories and good things that have happened. So it's something, I mean, and it's very deep, that connects all of us.
yeah, that's extremely true. I think we'd like to end it. right here. But then before I
Yeah.
end it, I'd like to just convey a message that a lot of people have in their heads and hearts in my team. There's not very deep or anything, but the livery for the 2016 car, that is one thing that splits a lot of people. Now, some people like the black livery of last season; they like the black theme, but I'm confident in saying that the majority of Pravega Racing would agree that the 2016 livery was the best livery. So huge props to you on that.
I mean, I think uh, I was just the one uh, who got it to the place, but there are so many people who designed it, and few people I would like to mention who really pushed it through was Aditya Tiwari, the people, the guy who was in charge of CAD, Rohan Gupta, and there was Siddharth Sethi, some amazing people who really worked on the appearance of the car, and we felt because I think we got BMW the first time that year. And kudos to the marketing team, and we really wanted to make the car look amazing. So these guys worked really hard. I think they had really good creative skills, and they made it really look nice. So big shout out to them. I'm just the one who get the praises. So
So I'm sure that there were a lot of people involved in designing the livery, and yeah, personally, I'd like to say that is the livery I'd go with. And even though I was involved in the designing of the previous car, I'm sorry, that's the livery I'll go with. So yeah, it has been
that's,
wonderful talking to you, especially because
thank you.
you are very open about how emotional you were in the team, and you aren't sort of afraid to share all those things. And you are very, if I'm being completely honest, you're very calming to talk to. The way you speak, your demeanor, and
Thank
I
you.
think it's been rubbing off on me as well. So I'm pretty sure I'll change for the better after this conversation. Thanks a lot, Tribhuvan.
Thank you so much, and I'm really grateful for you to providing me this platform, and I feel really happy to connect to anyone who's been in the team. I would feel just great joy helping them out any way that I can, and I would still love to do that after this. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to share my experience. So thank you so much.
Thank you.